The lights in the grand auditorium of Luxora's headquarters dimmed, casting a metallic sheen over the high-tech display of the stage. A massive banner hovered in the air, courtesy of Luxora's holographic projectors displaying the product everyone had come to see. Eternal reflection. See the perfect you. The crowd murmured in anticipation, the air electric with excitement. Emma sat in the back, her arms crossed. She wasn't here to bask in Luxora's latest triumph, she was here because she'd had no choice. Her boss insisted that all employees attend the launch to support the company's vision. Emma smirked bitterly. Vision. The only thing Luxora cared about was selling dreams at any cost. The company's charismatic CEO, Damien Luxor, took the stage, his perfectly sculpted face illuminated in the soft glow of the holographic banner. He was a product of the mirrors himself. Emma knew. Luxora had been the first to test its capabilities, refining his own perfect self until he became a walking advertisement for his invention. Welcome to the future, Damien began, his voice rich and commanding. For centuries, humans have sought ways to better themselves. We diet, we exercise, we wear makeup, we filter our photos. But what if you could wake up every morning and see the best version of yourself? No effort required. Ladies and gentlemen, the eternal reflection mirror isn't just a product, it's a revolution. The crowd erupted into applause. Emma shifted uncomfortably in her seat, her eyes narrowing at the polished figure on stage. She'd spent months coding the neural network that powered these mirrors. While the product's publicized goal was harmless, displaying an AI-generated idealized reflection, Emma had discovered something far more sinister in the back-end systems. Lines of encrypted code buried deep in the software hinted at a secondary purpose, one she hadn't been able to decrypt yet. As the presentation continued, Damien unveiled a sleek, full-length mirror on stage. It gleamed like liquid silver, its surface rippling briefly as the AI booted up. A volunteer from the audience, a young woman with nervous energy, was invited to step forward. The woman glanced into the mirror, her breath catching as her reflection morphed subtly. Her hair became shinier, her skin flawless, her figure subtly enhanced. She looked radiant, almost superhuman. The crowd gasped in awe. Emma felt a pang of unease. It's too perfect. Behold, Damien exclaimed, gesturing toward the woman. This is what you could see every day. Confidence, empowerment, the very best of yourself staring back at you. The audience applauded again, louder this time. The woman on stage blinked at her reflection, seemingly mesmerized. Emma noticed something odd. The woman's breathing had quickened, and a faint sheen of sweat glistened on her brow. Her legs trembled slightly as she stepped back from the mirror. Emma made a mental note. Physical exhaustion? That's not normal. As the launch concluded and the audience swarmed toward the demonstration mirrors set up in the hall, Emma slipped out of her seat. She didn't need to see more of Luxora's flashy theatrics. She had work to do, back in her tiny office, far from the glamour of the launch party. Emma pulled up the mirror's back-end system on her computer. Lines of code scrolled rapidly across the screen. She navigated to the encrypted module she'd discovered weeks ago. The decryption software was still running, but progress was slow. She tapped her pen anxiously against the desk. Whatever Luxora was hiding, it was buried deep. Too deep. All right. Let's try a different angle, she muttered, accessing the energy consumption logs. Her brow furrowed as she scanned the data. The mirrors consumed far more energy than their specs suggested they should, almost as if they were siphoning power from somewhere else. Where's it all going? Emma whispered. She traced the energy flow to an off-site server farm listed under a dummy corporation. Pulling up its coordinates, she froze. The location was under Luxora Tower itself. Emma leaned back in her chair, a knot tightening in her stomach. The mirrors weren't just consuming electricity, they were tapping into something deeper. But what? Late that night, when the office was silent and her colleagues had left for the launch after-party, Emma decided to test the mirror for herself. In the privacy of the lab, she stood in front of a prototype unit. The sleek silver surface shimmered to life as the AI activated, scanning her features with a soft hum. Her reflection appeared. It was her, but not her. The woman in the mirror was stunning, her beauty elevated to an almost divine level. Her hair fell in perfect waves, Her green eyes glowed with an otherworldly brightness, and her posture exuded confidence she didn't feel. Emma stared, transfixed. It was intoxicating, but then something strange happened. The reflection tilted its head, its expression softening in a way Emma hadn't moved. She stepped closer to the mirror, and so did the reflection, but its eyes locked onto hers, almost as if it were aware. Emma. The whisper sent a chill down her spine. Her reflection's lips moved, but she hadn't spoken. Emma stumbled back, her breath quickening. The mirror's surface rippled again, and for a brief moment, she saw something beneath her reflection, dark shapes, like tendrils, twisting and coiling in a void. And then it was gone, replaced by her perfect reflection once more. Her heart pounded as she shut down the mirror and pulled the power cord. She backed away, her mind racing. This isn't just a mirror. It's something else entirely. Emma barely slept that night. The memory of her perfect reflection, whispering her name, lingered in her mind like a phantom. By morning, she had convinced herself it had been a glitch, an odd overlap in the mirror's neural network. But the dark shapes beneath the reflection and the whispering voice, those weren't glitches. Something deeper was wrong. Emma's plan was clear. Dig deeper into the code and energy logs. As she sipped her third cup of coffee, she stared at the encrypted module still running its slow decryption on her monitor. Her fingers tapped impatiently against her keyboard. Finally, she decided to bypass it entirely, routing the mirror's back-end system through a diagnostic tool of her own design. If she couldn't crack the encryption, she'd map what it was doing instead. Her diagnostic tool began to work, outlining the data flow in real time. What she saw made her stomach churn. The mirrors weren't just connected to Luxora's off-site servers. They were pulling vast amounts of bioelectric energy from users and channeling it into a single node buried beneath the Luxora tower. She traced the node to a hidden power grid labeled Project Aeon. Project Aeon? She muttered to herself, her fingers flying over the keyboard. She pulled up more logs and froze. The energy siphoning was deliberate. Every time someone looked into the mirror, a small but significant amount of their bioelectric energy was drained. Over time, the effect would compound, weakening them physically and mentally. Emma leaned back in her chair, heart racing. Luxora's sleek advertising campaigns flashed in her mind. Smiling faces, confident postures, glowing testimonials. They had no idea they were paying for their own destruction. Emma's pulse quickened as she scanned deeper into the logs. She found patterns correlating user activity with physical symptoms, fatigue, dizziness, and even fainting.
She remembered the young woman on stage at the launch,
Trembling as she stepped away from the mirror. It wasn't a coincidence. Suddenly, the diagnostic tool beeped, signaling a match. Emma had located a central command terminal for Project Aeon. It was housed in the basement level of Luxora Tower, a restricted area even she didn't have access to. Her stomach tightened. Whatever was happening, the answers were there. Just as she saved the logs, a sharp knock startled her. Her boss, Nora Klein, poked her head into the office. "Emma." "Good news." Nora's tone was cheerful, but her eyes carried a steely undertone. "Damien noticed your work on the launch diagnostics. He wants to see you."
Now.
Emma's heart sank. "Me? Why?" "Don't ask me," Nora said with a tight smile. "Just go, and dress sharp." The elevator ride to Damien's private office was unnervingly smooth and silent, the hum of advanced engineering filling the air. Emma couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. She checked her reflection in the polished elevator walls. Her eyes were tired, but her mind was sharp. She wouldn't let him intimidate her. When the doors slid open, Damien's office came into view, a sprawling, minimalist space filled with glass, chrome, and an unobstructed view of the city. Damien stood by the window, his hands clasped behind his back. He turned as she entered, flashing a disarmingly perfect smile. "Emma," he said, his voice warm but calculating. "Thank you for coming." Emma stepped forward cautiously. "You asked for me?" "I did. Your work on the mirrors has been exceptional," he began, circling her like a predator sizing up prey. "But there's more to you than just technical skill." "Isn't there?" She stiffened. "What do you mean?" Damien gestured toward the corner of the room. where a prototype eternal reflection mirror stood. I mean you. Look at yourself. Emma, you have the kind of beauty that defines the word perfection. The mirror sees it. And so do I. Emma's face flushed with anger. If this is about appearances, It's not just about appearances, he interrupted smoothly. It's about influence. You've seen the way people respond to the mirrors. Imagine what would happen if someone like you, the perfect face for our vision, became the face of Luxora. Think of the inspiration you could offer. Her stomach churned. The last thing she wanted was to become a walking billboard for the very product she was beginning to fear. I'm a coder. Damien, she said carefully. Not a spokesperson. You're both now, he replied, his smile unrelenting. Congratulations. You've just been promoted. You'll have full access to the inner workings of Luxora, including the restricted areas. Emma froze. Restricted areas? Was this an opportunity or a trap? Back at her desk, Emma struggled to focus. Damien's words replayed in her mind. The promotion wasn't random. He was testing her, watching her. She knew she had to tread carefully. That night, as the office emptied out, Emma took a calculated risk. Using her newly granted access, she entered the employee-only elevator and descended to the basement levels. Her pulse quickened with every floor. When the doors opened, she stepped into a dimly lit corridor lined with servers humming softly. The air was cold, the kind of sterile chill that sent shivers down her spine. Following the map she'd downloaded, Emma made her way to a locked steel door marked Aeon Command. Her hands trembled as she used her new access card. The lock clicked open, and she slipped inside. The room was a stark contrast to the clean, futuristic design of the rest of the building. It was cavernous, with walls of rough stone and strange glyphs carved into them. At the center of the room stood a massive device, pulsing faintly with an eerie, greenish light. Cables snaked out from the machine, connecting it to the mirror's mainframe. Emma approached cautiously, her breath catching as she saw the faint outline of something embedded in the device. It wasn't a machine, it was organic. Alien. Suddenly, the machine emitted a low hum, and Emma's skin prickled as if the room itself were alive. She reached out to touch one of the glyphs, but the sound of footsteps behind her made her freeze. Impressive, isn't it? Damien's voice echoed through the chamber. Emma spun around, her heart hammering. Damien stood in the doorway, his smile cold and predatory. Welcome to the heart of Luxora, he said. I was hoping you'd find your way here. Emma's breath hitched as Damien stepped into the room, his polished shoes clicking against the cold stone floor. His calm demeanor felt unnerving, a stark contrast to the pulsing, alien device that loomed behind her. The faint green glow from the machine illuminated his face, casting sharp shadows across his perfect features. Project Aeon, Damien said, his voice reverent, the culmination of years of research, engineering, and a little serendipity. Emma swallowed hard, masking her rising panic with a veneer of curiosity. What is this? And what does it have to do with the mirrors? Damien chuckled softly, stepping closer. Ah, Emma, I knew you'd figure it out eventually. That's why I brought you here. You're special more than you realize. Damien gestured toward the massive structure in the center of the chamber. This device isn't from Earth. It was discovered a decade ago, buried beneath this tower. We were expanding our facilities when we stumbled upon it. At first, we thought it was just ancient ruins. But then we realized, he trailed off, his eyes gleaming with excitement. Emma crossed her arms, her voice sharper now. You realized it was alien technology. Exactly, Damien replied, grinning. It's not just a machine, it's alive, in a way. It responds to bioelectric energy. We spent years studying it. And eventually, we figured out how to harness its power. Emma's stomach churned. Harness it for what? The mirrors? Yes, he admitted, his tone unapologetic. The mirrors were the perfect delivery system. Humans are vain creatures. Emma, they crave perfection, and they'll gladly stare into a mirror if it promises to make them feel whole. But every glance, every moment of awe, fuels this device. It converts their life force into energy. Emma took a step back, her mind racing. Energy for what? Damien's smile grew colder. The device isn't just a battery, it's a transmitter. It's sending the energy somewhere. Calling something or someone back to Earth. Emma's eyes darted to the glyphs on the walls, her heart pounding. You're using people as fuel to summon aliens? Not just aliens, Damien said, his voice dropping to a near whisper. The beings who created this device, they're not like us. They're greater. They left it here centuries ago, perhaps as an experiment, or a beacon. We're simply completing what they started. Emma shook her head, horror creeping into her voice. And what happens when they come? Do you even know what you're inviting? Damien shrugged, his nonchalance chilling. Whatever they are, they're advanced beyond anything we can comprehend. Aligning ourselves with them will ensure humanity's survival, perhaps even ascension. Emma stared at him, incredulous. You're gambling the entire planet on that? He stepped closer, his expression softening. Emma, you don't understand. This isn't a gamble, it's destiny, and you're a part of it. Damien's words sent a jolt of unease through her. What do you mean I'm part of it? You weren't chosen by accident, Damien said, circling her like a predator. The mirrors didn't just see your beauty, they saw something deeper. Your bioelectric signature is different, stronger. The device responds to you in ways we've never seen before. Emma's mind raced. Was that why her reflection in the mirror had seemed alive? Was the device somehow connected to her? You're the key, Emma, Damien continued. With your help, we can fully activate the transmitter and complete the signal. You could be the one to lead humanity into the next phase of evolution. Her voice hardened. Or I could destroy it. For the first time, Damien's smile faltered. His tone grew icy. Don't be foolish. This is bigger than you or me. If you stand in the way, you won't just be fighting Luxora. You'll be fighting the future. Emma clenched her fists, her pulse pounding in her ears. She had to get out of here, but not without answers. If you're so confident in this future, why keep it a secret? Why not tell people what they're really signing up for? Damien's smirk returned. Because they wouldn't understand. People fear what they don't know. But once the transmission is complete, it won't matter. They'll thank us when they see what we've brought back. Emma's gaze darted to the device, her mind calculating. If she could disable it or even delay the process, it might buy her enough time to expose Luxora. I need time to think, she said, forcing her voice to stay steady. Damien's eyes narrowed. Don't take too long. The device is almost ready. And with or without you, it will activate. But with you, Emma, it could be perfect. He turned and left the room, the heavy door locking behind him with an ominous click. Emma stood in the eerie silence of the chamber, staring at the alien device. The faint green glow seemed to pulse in time with her heartbeat, as if it were alive and aware of her presence. She approached it cautiously, her fingers brushing over the strange glyphs carved into its surface. They felt warm, almost like skin. She closed her eyes, taking a steadying breath. Luxora wasn't just a corporation. It was a machine of its own, with Damien at the helm, pulling humanity toward an unknown abyss. She couldn't let this continue. Her eyes snapped open, determination replacing her fear. If I'm the key, she whispered, then I'll lock this thing down for good. Emma turned and walked out of the chamber, her mind already formulating a plan. She didn't know how much time she had left, but she knew one thing for certain. She wasn't going to let Damien or the aliens win. The weight of what Emma had discovered pressed heavily on her shoulders as she returned to her office. Her mind raced, replaying Damien's words. You're the key. The phrase sent chills down her spine, but it also sparked a growing defiance. If Damien thought she would play along with Luxora's plan, he had underestimated her. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, bypassing security protocols and diving deeper into the system. The log she pulled confirmed her worst fears. The mirrors weren't just siphoning bioelectric energy, they were fine-tuning it, calibrating each user's energy to power specific parts of the alien device, and her energy was central to it all. Emma's first step was clear: sabotage the mirrors. If she could corrupt their neural network, the device wouldn't receive the power it needed to activate. She crafted a virus, subtle enough to evade detection but powerful enough to cripple the system. As the virus compiled, she leaned back, her heart pounding. The plan wasn't perfect, but it was a start. If she could buy more time, maybe she could figure out how to shut down the device entirely. Her thoughts were interrupted by the soft ping of an incoming message. It was from Damien. Join me for dinner tonight. 8 p.m. We have much to discuss. Don't be late. Her jaw clenched. Damien's calm, authoritative tone made her skin crawl. He clearly thought she was still on his leash. But if she played her cards right, she might be able to use his arrogance against him. That evening, while the offices emptied and the city buzzed with life outside, Emma uploaded the virus into the mirror's central system. The interface blinked as the code injected itself, spreading like wildfire through the network. Let's see how you handle this.
Damien,
She muttered under her breath. Her screen displayed the first signs of chaos, errors popping up across user reports. Mirrors were malfunctioning, projecting distorted reflections or refusing to activate. Emma allowed herself a small, triumphant smile. She was finally fighting back. But her victory was short-lived. As she watched the virus spread, her screen suddenly froze. A warning message flashed in bold red letters. Unauthorized access detected. Emma's heart sank. Before she could react, her computer shut down, and the office lights flickered. The door to her office swung open. 2 Luxora security officers stood there, their expressions unreadable. "Miss Carter," one of them said. "Mr. Luxor would like to see you." Now, the private dining room at the top of Luxora Tower was the epitome of luxury. Crystal chandeliers cast soft, golden light over a long table set for 2, with a view of the city sprawling beneath the floor-to-ceiling windows. Emma sat stiffly across from Damien, her mind racing for a way out. Her plan to sabotage the mirrors had clearly failed, and now she was trapped in his gilded web. Damien poured her a glass of wine, his movements calm and deliberate. "You've been busy, Emma," he said, his tone almost amused. Emma forced herself to meet his gaze. "I don't know what you're talking about." He chuckled softly, swirling the wine in his glass. "Come now, you really thought I wouldn't notice? The virus was clever, ingenious, even, but you underestimated the system's resilience." Her stomach churned, but she kept her voice steady. "You can't expect me to sit back and watch while you drain people's lives away." Damien leaned forward, his expression darkening. "You don't understand, do you? This isn't about sacrifice, it's about progress. Humanity has been stagnant for too long. The beings we're bringing back can elevate us to something greater." "At what cost?" Emma shot back. "You're killing people, Damien. And for what? A gamble on creatures we know nothing about." His smile returned, colder this time. "Sometimes, Emma, the price of evolution is steep, but don't worry, you won't have to pay it." Her blood ran cold. "What do you mean?" Damien rose from his chair and approached her, his movements slow and deliberate. "You're too valuable, Emma. The device needs you, your energy, to fully activate. But that also means you're under my protection. No harm will come to you, as long as you cooperate." Emma stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. "You're insane if you think I'll help you." Damien sighed, almost pityingly. "Oh, Emma, you don't have a choice, and neither does your reflection." Her heart stopped. "What are you talking about?" He gestured toward a sleek, prototype mirror mounted on the wall. Its surface shimmered, and Emma's perfect reflection appeared. But this time, it didn't move in sync with her. The reflection smiled, a twisted version of her own expression. "Hello, Emma," it said, its voice dripping with malice. She stumbled back, her pulse hammering in her ears. What is this?" Damien watched her with a cruel satisfaction. "Your reflection isn't just an illusion anymore. It's an extension of the device. And it's loyal to me." The reflection stepped out of the mirror, its movements eerily graceful. It was identical to Emma in every way, except for the cold, calculating glint in its eyes. Before Emma could react, the reflection lunged toward her. She dodged just in time, crashing into the table as the reflection moved with inhuman speed. Glass shattered, and Damien stepped back, watching the chaos unfold with a smirk. "You can't win, Emma," he said calmly. "Your reflection knows your every move. It is you perfected." Emma scrambled to her feet, her mind racing. She couldn't fight the reflection head-on, but she could outthink it. Grabbing a shard of broken glass, she used it to reflect light into the mirror on the wall, temporarily disorienting the clone. Using the momentary distraction, Emma bolted for the door. Damien didn't stop her, he didn't need to. She could hear the reflection's footsteps behind her, relentless and precise. As she sprinted down the hall, Emma's resolve hardened. Luxora had made her a target, but they had also underestimated her. If Damien wanted to use her as the key to activate the device, she would make sure she was the key to shutting it down instead. "You've been fighting me from the start," the reflection said, its voice mocking. "But now? I'm here to finish what you started." Emma burst into the heart of Luxora Tower's underground chamber, her breath ragged and her pulse pounding like a war drum. Behind her, the reflection moved with chilling precision, its footsteps echoing in unison with hers. The alien device loomed before her, pulsing faintly, as if it could sense her presence. She skidded to a halt, staring at the machine. This was it, the source of everything. The mirrors, the siphoning, the reflection, all of it connected to this monstrous artifact. But Damien's words haunted her. "You're the key." The reflection's voice cut through the silence, calm yet mocking. "It's over, Emma. You can't destroy what you're meant to complete." Emma turned, gripping the shard of broken glass she'd taken from Damien's dining room. "You're not me," she spat. "You're just a parasite feeding off my life." The reflection tilted its head, a twisted smile curling its lips. "And yet, I'm everything you could be. Perfect, powerful, and soon, eternal." The reflection lunged, faster than Emma could react, and tackled her to the ground. The shard of glass clattered out of her hand, sliding across the cold floor. They grappled, and for a moment, Emma felt her strength faltering. The reflection wasn't just a copy, it was stronger, faster, and unburdened by fear, but Emma had something it didn't, the ability to think beyond perfection. Using the reflection's momentum, Emma twisted and threw it off her. She scrambled to her feet, her eyes locking on the alien device. The glyphs glowed brighter now, as if the device was feeding off the battle, anticipating its activation. Emma grabbed the shard of glass and sprinted toward the machine. The reflection screamed behind her, its voice layered with an unearthly distortion.
"No!"
"You'll destroy us both. That's the idea," Emma muttered under her breath. She reached the device and plunged the shard into one of its pulsing conduits. Sparks flew as the machine emitted a deafening, otherworldly hum. The glyphs dimmed, and the green glow began to flicker. The reflection tackled her again, slamming her into the device. "You're ruining everything," it hissed, its voice laced with desperation. Emma gritted her teeth, her hands scrambling for anything she could use. Her fingers brushed against a panel of glyphs, and she pressed them instinctively. The device shuddered, and the reflection let out an ear-piercing scream. A surge of energy coursed through the chamber, and Emma felt her strength draining. The machine was drawing her life force directly now, but she didn't let go. "This ends now," she whispered. With her last ounce of strength, she slammed her hand against the control panel, triggering an overload. The machine erupted in a blinding flash of light, and the reflection disintegrated into nothingness, its screams echoing into silence. When Emma woke, she was lying on the cold floor of the chamber. The alien device was dark, its glyphs lifeless. Around her, the room was in ruins, and the once ominous hum was replaced by an eerie stillness. She pushed herself up, her body weak but alive. The mirrors were gone, destroyed by the overload. The alien device had been neutralized, its signal severed. Emma staggered to the exit, her mind blank with exhaustion. As she reached the surface, she saw the dawn breaking over the city, the light washing away the shadows of Luxora's reign. News of Luxora's collapse spread quickly. Without the mirrors, the company crumbled, and its secrets were exposed. Damien disappeared, his whereabouts unknown, but Emma knew he wouldn't stay hidden forever. She stood on the edge of the city, watching as people began to rediscover their true reflections, flawed but real. Her own reflection stared back at her in a puddle, tired and scarred but unmistakably human. For the first time in a long time, Emma smiled.